one of the main signs of the end times, we've talked about this a lot over the years, is a coming peace treaty between the Antichrist and the nation of Israel, or the people of Israel. Now, I believe the Bible tells us that when the Antichrist comes on the scene, the event that begins the 7-year tribulation period is a treaty between the Antichrist and Israel. A lot of people, I think, have the mistaken idea, at least those of us who believe in the pre-trib rapture, that it's the rapture that starts the 7-year tribulation. The rapture doesn't begin the 7-year tribulation. It's this peace treaty that the Antichrist makes with Israel. And we find that in Daniel chapter 9 and verse 27. It says there in he, and that in the he there refers back to verse 26 to this coming prince, the Antichrist. He will make a firm covenant with the many. And in the context here, the many is the many in the land of Israel. He'll make a firm covenant with the many for 1 week. And again, in the context here, 1 week is 1 week of years, or a period of 7 years. So this is really one of the main places in the Bible we get the idea or the notion of a 7-year time of tribulation in the future. It says, but in the middle of the week, that is in the middle of that time, at the midpoint, at 3.5-year point, he will put a stop to sacrifice and grain offering. And on the wing of abominations will come one who makes desolate. So according to Daniel 9:27, sometime after the rapture, the Antichrist will come on the scene, and the event that will start the 7-year tribulation is this 7-year peace treaty that he makes with Israel. And one of the things that peace treaty is going to do is allow the Jewish people to worship again there on the Temple Mount in a rebuilt Jewish temple, a third temple. Because it says in the middle of the week, he'll put a stop to sacrifice and grain offering. Well, obviously, for him to put a stop to it means it has to have started. So this peace treaty in some ways is going to give Israel sovereignty over that 36-acre Temple Mount there in Israel. There's a couple other passages that allude to this coming peace treaty for Israel in the future. In Ezekiel chapter 38, the prophecy about Gog and Magog, about a Russian Islamic invasion of Israel in the end times. It says when that invasion occurs that Israel's going to be at rest and living securely. It says that in Ezekiel 38, verse 8 and 38:11. And so I believe it's when Israel's living under this coming peace treaty that this Russian Islamic invasion of Israel will take place. And then when you go over into the New Testament, 1 Thessalonians 5 says, while they are saying peace and safety, then sudden destruction will come upon them suddenly like birth pangs upon a woman. So I believe that when the tribulation period begins, there's going to be kind of a time of global peace at the beginning of the tribulation for a brief period of time. But I think that global peace for Israel will go for 3.5 years because they'll have this guaranteed peace with the Antichrist, who's going to be this ruler or this leader of a reunited Roman Empire. And then one other place we kind of see this idea of peace in the early part of the tribulation is in Revelation chapter 6, verses 1 and 2, where John there sees the first seal opened and a rider on a white horse comes forth. And this, I believe, is the Antichrist. He's the counterfeit Christ. Jesus will ride on a white horse in Revelation 19 when he returns to the earth. This is the beginning of the tribulation, this counterfeit false Messiah riding on a white horse. And it says that he has a bow but no arrows. And he's going to come in conquest. So I think it'll be a bloodless conquest, kind of a diplomatic conquest. He has a bow but no arrows, and he's going to bring a time of peace to the earth that then will be broken with the second seal, the rider on the red horse. But anyway, with all that background, we've seen movements in Israel in the last couple of years towards a peace. Now, nothing that we see today is the peace treaty between the Antichrist and Israel because we're not in the tribulation yet and the Antichrist hasn't arrived. But this is kind of the build-up or the setting of the stage for that. In Daniel 9:27, when it says he'll make a firm covenant with the many for 1 week, some believe that word firm there, the Hebrew word, has the idea of a compelled covenant or even a strengthened or confirmed covenant. So it may be when the Antichrist comes, there's already some kind of a peace framework in place, and he's going to simply come and strengthen or confirm a covenant that already exists. And with Israel, the nation of Israel, of course, they've been at war with their enemies there that surround them for decades, ever since 1948 and the rebirth of the modern state of Israel. Israel signed a peace agreement with Egypt in 1979. They got peace with Jordan in 1994. But more recently, between August and December of 2020, or of 2020, President Trump and his administration were able to broker what were called the Abraham Accords. And what that was a series of treaties normalizing diplomatic relations between Israel and 4 Arab nations, the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Morocco, and Sudan. And of course, this has all been soundly condemned by the Palestinians. But it's easy to see, I think, how these Abraham Accords could be the build-up or the setting of the stage for some type of greater covenant that the Antichrist will bring about. Benjamin Netanyahu is going to become prime minister in Israel. And there's concern that maybe his administration, being more of a right-wing administration, may jeopardize these Abraham Accords. But he's made every commitment that he can that these are going to continue. In fact, maybe even increase. Experts from Israel and 6 Arab countries right now are meeting in Morocco to discuss further implications of their coexistence together. It's December 5th through the 7th. And last year they had what was called the Negev Forum back in February, but this is called the N7 meeting. The letter N stands for normalization. So it's this normalization of relations, and the 7 stands for the number of nations that are meeting there. So it's a multilateral meeting. This will be the second one. They met last year, but this one in Morocco is the second one. And again, it's Israel, United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Morocco, Sudan, Egypt, and Jordan. So a 3-day meeting there. At the same time this is happening, the Israeli president, now again, not the prime minister Benjamin Netanyahu, but the president, Isaac Herzog, is addressing the Atlantic Council in Washington, talking about these accords and these treaties that they have and trying to foster those and deepen them. But Benjamin Netanyahu has made very clear here recently that he believes that Saudi Arabia is the big prize. And he believes that none of these other nations would have entered into these Abraham Accords with Israel without Saudi Arabia's approval, because they're kind of the big power broker there in that part of the world. Benjamin Netanyahu traveled there to Saudi Arabia about 2 weeks ago, and he met with the crown prince there, Salman. Nothing's been said really about what they discussed, but many believe that Benjamin Netanyahu is really pressing him on becoming part of these Abraham Accords. In an interview in late October, here's what Benjamin Netanyahu said. He said, "The big prize is Saudi Arabia, which I intend to achieve if I go back in office." And then he said this, "I intend to bring the Arab-Israeli conflict to a close." Now that's a bold statement with everything that's happened. So the big prize is Saudi Arabia. He intends to bring them into the Abraham Accords, and he intends to bring the Arab-Israeli conflict to a close. And at the same time, also, he's saying we're having to roll back Iran's nuclear program, which that fits in with the prophecies in Ezekiel 38 and 39. So what we see today could be the embryonic stages of this treaty that the Antichrist will come and strengthen and confirm when he comes to power in the end times. And if Saudi Arabia becomes part of it, that will be a significant movement forward in these accords. We could expect, I think, a lot of other Arab nations to join in at that time as well. So time will tell. If he's able to accomplish that, and if he's able to bring Israeli-Arab conflict to a close, that would really be the beginning and really the foundation of this Daniel 9:27 covenant that the Antichrist is going to make with Israel. The Antichrist will simply have to come on the scene and confirm or strengthen what's already in place. So this is just another indication of how close we are to the coming of Jesus Christ. And I pray for all of us as we watch the news and hear these things. These aren't just facts to us, but these are real, it has reality in our lives to give us a sense of urgency about the way we live and about our sharing the gospel with others around us.